Experimental designs. What do you really need to know? Well, for this class, you need to know, is it a true experimental design, a quasi-experimental, or a pre-experimental design? You should be able to figure that out by looking at the description of the methodology. You need to know the threats to internal validity and threats to external validity. You need to know the confounds, and you need to know that true experimental designs are the most useful in establishing cause and effect relationships. What is a true experimental design? Bottom line, they have random assignment, that's to the experiment and to both groups, to the control group and the experimental group, or group A, group B, whatever. They have two groups. There are two groups present in true experimental designs, and some kind of treatment occurs. Okay, here's the question. On page 89, why is it okay in design number 2 not to do a pretest? Stop the video, discuss among yourselves, come up with an answer, and then start the video again. Okay, here's the answer. The point of the pretest was to verify that both groups were the same when they started. Well, that's what randomization is supposed to do. So you can drop the pretest. Okay, threats to internal validity. Internal validity, the results mean what they say they mean. A threat to internal validity says maybe there's some other kind of explanation. Your book for these. The first threat, you're researching feelings of depression and helplessness in corporate executives. You're providing a talk therapy to see if it works. Like any study, this will take a while to collect all the data, but during it, there is a terrorist bombing. How do you know what caused your results? Was it your talk therapy, or was it the bombing? What kind of threat is this? 2. You're studying adolescents' use of alcohol. As part of this study, you have a group intervention utilizing hip-hop. This study takes a year to do. Maybe the hip-hop has nothing to do with your results. Maybe it's just that the kids grew up. What kind of threat is this? Okay, number 3. You're studying the effects of pet therapy on depression in nursing home residents. You and your co-researcher are collecting data by observing the behavior of the participants, but your co-researcher is not coding the behaviors the same way you do on the score sheet. What kind of threat is this? Okay, number 4. You're studying the effect of home monitoring for the detection of preterm labor in high-risk moms. A nurse calls daily to check on the results, to check on the client, and she completes a checklist each time she calls. Well, maybe it's the nurse's call and the testing, doing the checklist, that's making the difference and in rapid detection of preterm labor, not the use of the monitor. What kind of threat is this? Number 5. You randomly select participants and randomly assign them to one of two groups. It turns out that the two groups have some basic differences, even though random selection was used. Now, the point of random selection is to make the two groups the same, but in this case, they aren't. What kind of threat is this? Number 6. You're studying the effect of hip-hop on adolescents' alcohol use. The treatment lasts several months. During this time, more students in the control group drop out than in the experimental group. What type of threat is this? Now, for external threats to external validity, know that external validity is generalizability, the ability to take the results of your study and apply them to a different group of people. Selection bias and sampling problems are the biggest threats to external validity. I'm going to let you go back to your book for the rest of this. Pre-experimental designs. There is a treatment, but only one group is being studied. Sometimes there's a pretest, sometimes there isn't. But the point is, there's only one group in the study. Quasi-experimental designs. Big difference here, non-random samples. That's it. True experimental designs are rare in nursing. Why? For our last slide, we're looking at confounds. These are things that make it confusing, interpretation of the data confusing. The first confound is the Hawthorne effect. That's the attention effect. People get attention, and that influences their behavior no matter what. The second one is the John Henry effect. I never heard of this one, but it makes sense in your book. The control group somehow knows that they're inferior, or seen as inferior or lesser citizens by the researcher, so they try extra hard to do extra well. Then it talks about the placebo effect. A blind study means that the person doesn't know, are you getting the drug, are you getting a placebo? And double blind means nobody knows. Okay, double blind means nobody knows, not the researcher, not the participant, what drug they're getting. If it's a placebo, if it's the real thing, nobody knows.